Methods and means. There are many paths to the attainment of transcendental consciousness. In Sanskrit, these paths are called yogas or ways to union with Brahman. Different yogas suit different temperaments. Indeed, each individual will approach the reality in a slightly different manner. 4 main yogas are generally recognized in Hindu religious literature: karma, bhakti, jnana, and raja. Very briefly, their characteristics are as follows. Karma yoga, as its name implies, is concerned with work and action. By working selflessly for our neighbors, by regarding all action as a sacramental offering to God, by doing our duty without anxiety or concern for success or failure, praise or blame, we can gradually annihilate the ego idea. Through karma, we can transcend karma and experience the reality which is beyond all action. Bhakti is the yoga of devotion. Devotion to Iswara, the personal God, or to a great teacher, a Christ, a Buddha, a Ramakrishna. Through this personal devotion, this loving service to an embodied ideal, the devotee will ultimately transcend personality altogether. This is the yoga of ritual, of worship, of the religious sacraments. Ritual plays an important part in it as a physical aid to concentration, for the acts of ritual, like the acts of karma yoga, bring the mind back repeatedly from its distractions and help to keep it steadily upon its object. For many, it is the easiest path to follow. Jnana yoga, on the other hand, is more suited to those whose powerful and austere intellects mistrust the emotional fervor of worship. It is the yoga of pure discrimination. It transcends the intellect through the intellect. It needs no Iswara, no altar, no image, no ritual. It seeks a more immediate approach to the impersonal Brahman. This path may perhaps be more direct, but it is also hard and steep, and can be trodden only by a few. Raja Yoga, the yoga of meditation, combines, to some extent, the 3 others. It does not exclude Karma Yoga, and it makes us both of the Bhakti and the Jnana approach, since true meditation is a blend of the devotional and the discriminative. By temperament, Shankara inclined towards Jnana Yoga, the way of pure discrimination, although, as this book will show, he was capable of great devotion also. Renunciation, discrimination, self-control, these are his watchwords. Some may find his austerity too forbidding, especially in the earlier portion of the dialogue. But it is precisely this severity which supplies a valuable corrective to the dangers of an easy sentimentality, an excess of carefree optimism, a confusion of real devotion with mere emotional self-indulgence. Shankara was under no illusions about this world of Maya. He condemns its apparent pleasures and delights with brutal frankness. For this very reason, he was able to describe so powerfully the complete transformation of the universe which takes place before the eyes of the illumined seer. When Brahman is experienced, when all creatures and objects are seen in their real relation to the Absolute, then this world is indeed a paradise. It is nothing but Brahman, nothing but utter consciousness, knowledge, and peace. After arduous struggles, the pupil in the crest jewel achieves this realization, and Shankara's book closes with the magnificent outburst of his joy. I might just continue. So, Chapter 3. Crest Jewel of Discrimination, Viveka Chudamani. I prostrate myself before Govinda, the perfect teacher, who is absorbed always in the highest state of bliss. His true nature cannot be known by the senses of the mind. It is revealed only through knowledge of the scriptures. The path. It is hard for any living creature to achieve birth in a human form. Strength of body and will are even harder to obtain. Purity is harder still. Harder even than these is the desire to live a spiritual life. And an understanding of the scriptures is hardest of all. As for discrimination between the Atman and the non-Atman, direct perception of the Atman itself, continuous union with Brahman, and final liberation, these cannot be obtained except through the merits of 100 billion well-lived incarnations. Only through God's grace may we obtain those 3 rarest advantages: human birth, the longing for liberation, and discipleship to an illumined teacher. Nevertheless, there are those who somehow manage to obtain this rare human birth, together with bodily and mental strength, and an understanding of the Scriptures, and yet are so deluded that they do not struggle for liberation. Such men are suicides. They clutch at the unreal and destroy themselves. For what greater fool can there be than the man who has obtained this rare human birth together with bodily and mental strength, and yet fails, through delusion, to realize his own highest good? Men may recite the Scriptures and sacrifice to the Holy Spirits, they may perform rituals and worship deities, but until a man wakes to knowledge of his identity with the Atman, liberation can never be obtained. No, not even at the end of many hundreds of ages. The Scriptures declare that immortality cannot be gained through work or progeny or riches, but by renunciation alone. Hence it is clear that work cannot bring us liberation. Therefore let the wise man give up craving for pleasure in external things, and struggle hard for liberation. Let him seek out a noble and high-souled teacher, and become absorbed wholeheartedly in the truth which is taught him. Through devotion to right discrimination, he will climb to the height of union with Brahman. By the power of the Atman, let him rescue his own soul which lies drowned in the vast waters of worldliness. Let the wise who have grown tranquil and who practice contemplation of the Atman give up all worldly activities and struggle to cut the bonds of worldliness. Right action helps to purify the heart, but it does not give us direct perception of the reality. The reality is attained through discrimination, but not in the smallest degree by 10 million acts. Correct discernment shows us the true nature of a rope, and removes the painful fear caused by or deluded belief that it is a large snake. Certain knowledge of the reality is gained only through meditation upon right teaching, and not by sacred ablutions or almsgiving, or by the practice of hundreds of breathing exercises. Success in attaining the goal depends chiefly upon the qualifications of the seeker. Suitable time, place, and other circumstances are aids to its attainment. Therefore, let him who would know the Atman, which is the reality, practice discrimination. But first he must approach a teacher who is a perfect knower of Brahman, and whose compassion is as vast as the ocean itself. The disciple. A man should be intelligent and learned, with great powers of comprehension, and able to overcome doubts by the exercise of his reason. One who has these qualifications is fitted for knowledge of the Atman. He alone may be considered qualified to seek Brahman who has discrimination, whose mind is turned away from all enjoyments, who possesses tranquility and the kindred virtues, and who feels a longing for liberation. In this connection, the sages have spoken of 4 qualifications for attainment. When these are present, devotion to the reality will become complete. When they are absent, it will fail. First is mentioned discrimination between the eternal and the non-eternal. Next comes renunciation of the enjoyment of the fruits of action here and hereafter. Then come the 6 treasures of virtue, beginning with tranquility. And last, certainly, is the longing for liberation. Brahman is real, the universe is unreal. A firm conviction that this is so is called discrimination between the eternal and the non-eternal. Renunciation is the giving up of all the pleasures of the eyes, the ears, and the other senses, the giving up of all objects of transitory enjoyment, the giving up of the desire for a physical body as well as for the highest kind of spirit body of a god. To detach the mind from all objective things by continually seeking their imperfection, and to direct it steadfastly toward Brahman, its goal, this is called tranquility. To detach both kinds of sense organs, those of perception and those of action, from objective things, and to withdraw them to rest in their respective centers, this is called self-control. True mental poise consists in not letting the mind react to external stimuli, to endure all kinds of afflictions without rebellion, complaint, or lament. This is called forbearance. A firm conviction, based upon intellectual understanding that the teachings of the Scriptures and of one's master are true, this is called by the sages the faith which leads to realization of the reality. To concentrate the intellect repeatedly upon the pure Brahman, and to keep it fixed there always, this is called self-surrender. This does not mean soothing the mind like a baby with idle thoughts. Longing for liberation is the will to be free from the fetters forged by ignorance, beginning with the ego sense and so on, down to the physical body itself, through the realization of one's true nature. Even though this longing for liberation may be present in a slight or moderate degree, it will grow intense through the grace of the teacher and through the practice of renunciation and of virtues such as tranquility, etc. And it will bear fruit. When renunciation and the longing for liberation are present to an intense degree within a man, then the practice of tranquility and the other virtues will bear fruit and lead to the goal. Where renunciation and longing for liberation are weak, tranquility and the other virtues are a mere appearance, like the mirage in the desert. Among all means of liberation, devotion is supreme. To seek earnestly to know one's real nature, this is said to be devotion. In other words, devotion can be defined as the search for the reality of one's own Atman. The seeker after the reality of the Atman, who possesses the above-mentioned qualifications, should approach an illumined teacher from whom he can learn the way to liberation from all bondage. The teacher. A teacher is one who is deeply versed in the scriptures, pure, free from lust, a perfect knower of Brahman. He is upheld continually in Brahman, calm like the flame when its fuel is consumed, an ocean of the love that knows no ulterior motive, a friend to all good people who humbly entrust themselves to him. Let the seeker approach the master with reverent devotion. Then, when he has pleased him by his humility, love, and service, let him ask whatever may be known about the Atman. O Master, friend of all devotees, I bow down before you. O boundless compassion, I have fallen into the sea of the world. Save me with those steadfast eyes which shed grace, like nectar never-ending. I am burning in the blaze of the world forest, which no man can extinguish. Evil deeds out of the past drive me like huge winds, hither and thither. I am full of fear. I have taken refuge in you. Save me from death. I know no other shelter. There are pure souls who have attained peace and greatness. They bring good to mankind, like the coming of spring. They themselves have crossed the dreadful ocean of this world. Without any selfish motive, they help others to cross. It is the very nature of these great souls to work, on their own accord, to cure the troubles of others, just as the moon, of its own accord, cools the earth when it is scorched by the fierce rays of the sun. The vessel of your lips has been dipped in and filled with the sweetness of the bliss of Brahman. Pour words from it like drops of nectar upon me. They are purifying, soothing, and delightful to the ear. Master, I am consumed by the scorching heat of this worldly life, as by the flames of a forest fire. Blessed are they on whom your eyes rest even for a moment. It is thus that you accept them and make them your own. How shall I cross the ocean of this world? What should be my goal? What way should I take? I know of none. Be gracious, Master. Save me. Tell me how to end the miseries of this earthly life. Withhold nothing. Scorched by the fierce flames of the world forest, the disciple speaks these words. The great soul looks at the disciple who thus seeks refuge in him, and his eyes are wet with tears of mercy. Immediately, he frees the disciple from his fear. This disciple, who has sought his protection, is one who thirsts for liberation, who has properly fulfilled his duties, whose heart has become tranquil, and who has attained calmness of mind. The wise and holy man, out of compassion, begins to instruct him in the truth. O prudent one, do not fear. For you there is no danger. There is a way to cross the ocean of worldly life. I shall reveal to you that very method by which sages have reached the other shore. There is a certain potent method of putting an end to the horror of this worldly life. By it, you may cross the world ocean and reach the highest bliss. Meditation on the meaning of the truth as it is taught in Vedanta leads to the highest illumination. By this means, the misery of the worldly life is altogether destroyed. Faith, devotion, and constant union with God through prayer, these are declared by the sacred scriptures to be the seeker's direct means of liberation. To him who abides by them comes liberation from that bondage of physical consciousness which has been forged by ignorance. Because you are associated with ignorance, the supreme Atman within you appears to be in bondage to the non-Atman. This is the sole cause of the cycle of births and deaths. The flame of illumination, which is kindled by discrimination between Atman and non-Atman, will burn away the effects of ignorance down to their very roots. The questions. The disciple speaks. Master, please listen to the questions I am about to ask. I shall feel blessed if I may hear an answer from your lips. What, in reality, is this bondage? How did it begin? In what is it rooted? How is a man set free from it? What is the non-Atman? What is the supreme Atman? How can one discriminate between them? Please answer me. The Master speaks. You are blessed indeed. You are drawing near to the goal. Through you, your whole family has become purified, because you long to get free from the bondage of ignorance and reach Brahman. Children may free their father from his depths, but no other person can free a man from his bondage. He must do it himself. Others may relieve the suffering caused by a burden that weighs upon the head, but the suffering which comes from hunger and the like can only be relieved by oneself. The sick man who takes medicine and follows the rules of diet is seen to be restored to health, but not through the efforts of another. A clear vision of the reality may be obtained only through your own eyes, only through our own eyes, when they have been opened by spiritual insight, never through the eyes of some other seer. Through our own eyes we learn that the moon looks like what the moon looks like. How could we learn this through the eyes of others? Those cords that bind us, because of our ignorance, our lustful desires, and the fruits of our karma, how could anybody but ourselves untie them, even in the course of innumerable ages? Neither by the practice of yoga or Sankhya philosophy, nor by good works, nor by learning does liberation come, but only through a realization that Atman and Brahman are one, in no other way. It is the duty of a king to please his people, but not everybody who pleases the people is fit to be a king. For the people can be pleased by the beauty of Vena's form and the skill with which its strings are plucked. Erudition, well-articulated speech, a wealth of words, and skill in expounding the scriptures, these things give pleasure to the learned, but they do not bring liberation. Study of the scriptures is fruitless as long as Brahman has not been experienced, and when Brahman has been experienced, it is useless to read the scriptures. A network of words is like a dense forest which causes the mind to wander hither and thither. Therefore, those who know this truth should struggle hard to experience Brahman. When a man has been bitten by the snake of ignorance, he can only be cured by the realization of Brahman. What use are Vedas or scriptures, charms or herbs? A sickness is not cured by saying the word medicine. You must take the medicine. Liberation does not come by merely saying the word Brahman. Brahman must be actually experienced. Until you allow this apparent universe to dissolve from your consciousness, until you have experienced Brahman, how can you find liberation just by saying the word Brahman? The result is merely a noise. Until a man has destroyed his enemies and taken possession of the splendor and wealth of the kingdom, he cannot become a king by simply saying, I am a king. A buried treasure is not uncovered by merely uttering the words, come forth. You must follow the right directions, dig, remove the stones and earth from above it, and then make it your own. In the same way, the pure truth of the Atman, which is buried under Maya and the effects of Maya, can be reached by meditation, contemplation, and other spiritual disciplines, such as a knower of Brahman may prescribe, but never by subtle arguments. Therefore, the wise must personally exert all their powers to get liberation from the bondage of the world, just as they would personally take remedies against physical ailments. The question you have asked today is a very good one. It is relevant to the teachings of the scriptures. Its meaning is hidden deep, as within an aphorism. It should be asked by all who seek liberation. Listen attentively, O prudent one, to what I say. By listening, you shall certainly be liberated from the bonds of the world. Of the steps to liberation, the first is declared to be complete detachment from all things which are non-eternal. Then comes the practice of tranquility, self-control, and forbearance. And then the entire giving up of all actions which are done from personal, selfish desire. Then the disciple must hear the truth of the Atman and reflect on it and meditate upon it constantly without pause for a long time. Thus the wise man reaches that highest state in which consciousness of subject and object is dissolved away and the infinite unitary consciousness alone remains, and he knows the bliss of nirvana while still living on earth.